The river cut through the canyon like a silver blade, its current wild and cold from the mountain thaw. It wasn't a place for mercy. The sound of it carried over the ridges as the tribe gathered at the bank, their faces carved from grief and fear. Among them, bound to a wooden frame, was a young Apache woman named Nita. Her legs hung limp beneath the cloth tied around her waist, motionless since the raid months before. The elders said the spirits had left her body and that keeping her among the living would curse the camp with weakness. When the men pushed the frame toward the edge, Nita didn't scream. Her dark eyes were fixed on the clouds above, pale against the dawn. She whispered something, maybe a prayer, maybe a goodbye. The cold wind lifted her hair like a black flame, and then she was gone, swallowed by the roar of the river. Farther downstream, a cowboy named Luke Maddox rode along the narrow ridge, searching for lost cattle. He was a quiet man, the kind who'd seen too much war and too little kindness. When the faint cry of a woman cut through the wind, he thought at first it was the sound of hawks. Then he saw her, a figure spinning helplessly in the white water, her arms thrashing weakly before vanishing beneath the surface. Without a thought, Luke spurred his horse down the slope. The animal stumbled in the loose gravel, but he didn't stop. He stripped off his coat and dove into the freezing river, the shock biting into his skin. The current dragged him under, spun him through a whirl of foam and stone, until his hand brushed something soft, hair, skin, the faint pulse of life. He grabbed hold and kicked toward the light. When they broke the surface, she wasn't breathing. Luke dragged her to the shore, gasping, water streaming from his hair. "Come on," he muttered, pounding her back. "Don't you give up now." She coughed, once, then again, water spilling from her lips. Her eyes fluttered open, unfocused, wild. For a moment, the two just stared at each other. She looked at him like she was seeing a ghost. He didn't know what she saw, a stranger, an enemy, a man with no place in her world. He only knew she was alive, and that seemed enough. He wrapped her in his coat and built a fire from driftwood. As the flames rose, she sat shivering, silent except for the tremble of her breath. Her skin was pale from the cold, and Luke noticed the strange stillness of her legs beneath the wet dress. "You're hurt bad," he said quietly. "I'll take you to the fort. There's a doctor there." Her eyes darted up at that word, fort, and she shook her head weakly. "No soldiers," she whispered. Her voice was broken but steady. "They kill my people. They kill me too." Luke hesitated. He'd seen the aftermath of those raids. He knew she was right. "Then we'll find another way," he said. "But you can't stay here. Riv will take you again." She turned her face toward the firelight, her features calm now, almost resigned. "You should have let me go," she said. "My tribe has already said my spirit is gone." Luke shook his head, jaw tight. "They were wrong," he said. "I saw you fight that water. A dead soul doesn't fight." The wind shifted, carrying the scent of sage and wet stone. For a long time, neither spoke. He dried her hair with a rag and moved the fire closer. Her eyes followed him, worried but curious. When he looked back, she said softly, "You saved me. But now you're bound to me. The river saw it. The spirits saw it too." Luke frowned, not sure if she was delirious from the cold or speaking some truth he couldn't understand. "Bound to you? How's that?" She gazed into the flames, her voice low. "When a warrior pulls one from the spirit water, he becomes her life, her breath, her fate. You touched death for me. Now it knows your name too." The fire cracked between them. Luke looked at her, not sure whether to believe her or fear her words. But deep down, something in him stirred, a strange pull, as if the river itself had tied an invisible thread between them. Outside, the storm clouds rolled in from the mountains, gray and heavy. The night was coming fast, and with it, the sound of distant drums echoed faintly through the valley, the kind that spoke of a tribe mourning, or hunting what they had cast away. The wind carried the faint rhythm of drums down the valley, slow and steady, like a heartbeat in the dark. Luke listened while feeding the fire, his jaw tight. He'd heard those drums before, during the border skirmishes, in places where treaties broke faster than promises. He knew what they meant. They were searching. Nita sat wrapped in his coat near the fire, her eyes unfocused, listening too. Her body trembled not from cold but from something older, fear, perhaps, or the weight of what her people had done. Luke knelt beside her. "They'll come this way," he said quietly. "You got anyone who'd help us? Someone who doesn't believe you should have died?" She shook her head. "None. To them I am already gone." He studied her face, calm, resigned, almost otherworldly in the firelight. "Well," he muttered, "then I guess you've got me." Before dawn, they left the riverbank. Luke built a small stretcher from pine branches, lined it with his blanket, and tied it to his horse. Nita lay across it without complaint, her eyes tracing the slow, gray roll of clouds above. As the sun broke over the ridge, her hair shimmered in the pale light, black and smooth as obsidian. Luke found himself glancing back more than once, wondering who she had been before all this. Before pain had turned her to stone. By noon, they reached a hidden hollow tucked between two ridges. There, Luke made camp, small, quiet, and invisible from the trails. He built another fire, careful not to let the smoke rise too high. As he worked, Nita watched him. Finally, she spoke. "Why did you save me?" He didn't look up from the fire. "Because no one else would have." "That is not a reason," she said softly. "Men do not risk their lives without reason." Luke paused, then looked at her. "Maybe I got tired of watching the world decide who deserves to live." She said nothing for a long time, but her eyes softened. "Then you are not like the others." He gave a dry smile. "No, ma'am. I'm not much like anyone anymore." That evening, he cleaned the wounds on her legs, though she couldn't feel them. She winced anyway, out of memory more than pain. "It's strange," she murmured. "When I was little, I dreamed of running beside the horses. Now I can't even walk to the water." Luke's hands hesitated over her ankle. "Maybe someday you will again." She looked at him sharply, almost as if the idea offended her. "You think I need hope," she said. "But I only need peace." "Peace comes after living," he replied. She didn't answer. Instead, she watched him silently until the stars began to show above the ridge. Later, when the fire dimmed, she spoke again. "The spirits say when a life is taken back from the water, it belongs to the one who pulled it free. Not as a slave. As a bond. If you leave me now, the river will take you in your sleep." Luke chuckled softly. "You've got a strange way of saying thank you." But when he lay down that night, her words lingered in his mind. He dreamed of the river, dark, endless, pulling him under, and a voice calling his name from beneath the surface. When he woke before dawn, sweat cold on his neck, Nita was awake too, watching the horizon. "Your people," he said quietly. "They'll keep searching?" "Yes," she said. "They fear the curse of leaving a spirit unbound. They will want to end it." Luke stood, slinging his rifle over his shoulder. "Then we'd best move before they find the trail." He helped her onto the stretcher again, careful and steady. Her hands brushed his arm, light as a feather. "You could still leave me," she said softly. "You owe me nothing." He looked down at her, the early sun striking gold through the trees. "Maybe not," he said. "But I reckon I'd never forgive myself if I did." They rode on through the narrow pass, snow melting into glittering rivulets that followed them like veins of silver. For the first time since the river, Nita closed her eyes, not in fear, but in trust. And as they disappeared into the morning, the wind shifted, carrying the faint echo of drums once more, farther away this time, but still following. The third day brought a heavy silence over the land, the kind that comes before something breaks. The wind had died, the birds had vanished, and even the horse seemed uneasy. Luke could feel it in his gut. He'd been hunted before, and he knew when eyes were watching from somewhere unseen. They had made it far, beyond the river, across the rocky flats, into the foothills where juniper and pine tangled in thick, shadowed knots. There, he found an old trapper's hut long abandoned, half collapsed under the weight of years. It wasn't much, but it had walls and a roof. He carried Nita inside, laid her gently on the straw-covered floor, and began to patch the gaps with branches and bark. "You shouldn't stay," she said quietly, watching him. "If they find you with me, they will kill you too." Luke didn't stop working. "I've heard that before," he said. "Usually right before I did something I couldn't take back." Nita's lips curved in a faint smile, the first he'd seen from her. "You are a stubborn man." "Yeah," he said, tightening a knot in the rope. "Guess I am." He went out to gather more firewood. The sun was low, a molten red ball sinking behind the pines. The air smelled of resin and rain. When he returned, she was humming, a low, haunting melody that seemed older than the land itself. It echoed softly off the walls, filling the small space with warmth. "What's that song?" he asked. "It's a song for the ones between worlds," she said. "For those who were meant to die but did not." Luke's brow furrowed. "Sounds like it's meant for you." She looked up at him with eyes that caught the firelight. "For both of us now." That night the